Hello world, Prince here, and welcome to my channel, Gentlemen and Scholars, where we discuss life, style, personal development, and so much more. Alright, so the goal with this channel is to create a community of like-minded gentlemen and scholars, so definitely consider taking a look around and subscribing for more awesome content just like this. Okay, so for today's topic, we're going to be going over the high value mindset, and we're going to be touching on a bit of the feminine and masculine polarity and why this is important in relationships. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and jump right into the video. So before we jump into the video, I did just want to mention that it's very important that you watch this video until the end, because these principles have really made a huge impact on my life and have really been transformative. So it's definitely something that you're going to want to be paying attention to. Okay, so when you think about intimate relationships, really there are different motivations for men and women, and we'll call these the drivers. So it's important to be cognizant of these things because it'll make things a lot more clear and also clear up some areas that might at the moment be a mystery to you. So let's just go ahead and get into these drivers. So one of the main drivers for men is really achieving long-term goals and breaking through barriers. So there's a book that I've referenced previously that is really great on this topic. It is The Way of the Superior Man by David Dita. So in this book, he relates it to sports. So in football, for instance, you'll have the offensive line there to protect the quarterback. And then the defensive line, their goal is to break through that offensive line and get to that quarterback and hopefully tackle them and get the football. Additionally, from the offense perspective, they're trying to get past the defensive line and get to that goal, that touchdown. So that's really a great metaphor for the motivations of men, as all men want to break through and get to their desired goals and their desired outcomes. Not saying that women don't want this either, but it's just a bit different for men. And it'll become clear as I go through the rest of this list. So another thing here is that men are definitely going to want to be focused on personal growth. So in other words, they're going to want to know that they're making progress towards their goals. Of course, men and women alike are going to want this, but it's just a bit different for a man. For instance, if a man realizes that he's making no progress towards his goals at all, this is where that depression starts to set in. And it really can run really deep and affect other areas of that man's life. When you think about health, when you think about wellness, when you think about mental health, all of these things can be heavily affected really fast just from feeling as though no progress is being made in a man's life. Of course, I'm speaking in generalities here, and often these things are going to be applicable to both sexes, but let's really think about this in terms of extremes. This is going to be an extremely important thing for a man. Another important thing that's going to be very impactful for a man is giving, making the world just a little bit better than it was before you got here. So you might say, hey, I know a ton of narcissistic men. These guys aren't givers. Well, that's not exactly what I'm referring to here, but what I'm really referencing is, things like impact, legacy, setting their children up for success in the future. All of these little things are still contributions to the world. Another big thing for a man is going to be leading. All masculine men are going to want to be in a leadership position. Now, that doesn't mean that they're all going to be in a leadership position, but this is a natural desire of men, especially when you're talking about masculine men. An important thing to note too here is just because, you might be in a position where you're following, that doesn't necessarily mean you're not a masculine man. Pick out your favorite billionaire, millionaire, etc. And all of these guys have mentors that have showed them the ropes along the way. So we just went over the drivers for men. Let's go ahead and get into the drivers for women. And I feel like this might make things a bit more clear. So according to The Way of the Superior Man by David Dita, one of the big drivers for women is going to be love and connection. So a really feminine woman is going to be the one pushing for a relationship, you know, getting that boyfriend, girlfriend title. And then oftentimes they're also the ones that push for the marriage. Not saying that these things don't matter to men, but it just means much more to a feminine woman. A good example of this would be women who leave the workforce after getting married or having children, whereas you rarely see men doing this, as this is what gives us purpose. This is very important to us. The book also states that women are more spiritual in nature and that a woman's intuition is going to be a lot more keen than a man. I found it to be very interesting in my life where women are able to pick up on certain things without there having to be much need for explanation. Women are going to be way more in tune with their emotions, which honestly I think is not a bad thing. As you know, I believe us men, we sometimes create problems for ourselves by being too stoic and not really dealing with the issues in our lives. Women are excellent at solving the problems in their lives by talking through their issues with their friends, then developing solutions and fixing the problem through taking action. This is very different than a masculine man, because in most cases we are going to want to retreat, develop a game plan, then come back around once we have either solved the problem or are making progress towards solving the problem. So now that we've gone through a bit of the drivers, let's touch briefly on the masculine and feminine polarity and how this plays into a relationship. According to The Way of the Superior Man, we all have masculine and feminine energy within us. However, for most men, our essence is masculinity. So this just means this is going to represent the majority of our being. And for most women, their essence is going to be femininity. For folks in the LGBTQ communities, obviously they will be exceptions to the rule. But as we're speaking in generalities here, for most other people, this will be the case. Now, most of us have taken notice that the roles in societies have shifted and gender roles are being replaced. So now it's important more than ever to know where your essence lies, as an imbalance will kill attraction. And this really is the most important thing to keep in mind. Most relationships end because the man doesn't demonstrate full masculinity and acts more feminine, or vice versa. The woman demonstrates more masculine characteristics. So by acting completely masculine, you as the man will make your woman feel safe to be completely in her feminine. So in other words, she must feel safe physically, obviously, but she also must feel safe against attacks on her emotions. Therefore, if you as the man act feminine, well, this does not make your woman feel safe. Think about it. I'm sure you've heard this. The number one thing that I hear women complain about is men's neediness. They'll say, oh, he's needy, or he's weird and creepy. And maybe all the man did was just text a bit too much. In this case, he will be acting more like a woman. See, texting a lot is something a feminine woman who is completely fulfilled in her relationship would be doing. So in other words, she would be completely in her feminine. For a man to do this, well, that does not make you look masculine. If she stays with you, fine, but it definitely does not help for her attraction towards you. But something also to keep in mind is some people are just stuck in their ways. Some women are left unhappy because they are stuck in a masculine state and won't change their ways even for a masculine man. Thus, they are left unhappy, and it's really just best to avoid them. So this may be a complex topic to understand, and quite frankly, I anticipate a lot of pushback here, but I thought this was very important to touch on because I know that it will be very impactful for men's lives. Well, the ones that do take the advice. So I'll drop links to some great books down below that touch on this topic. So definitely take a look at these because these will definitely be of great assistance if you're having any issues or are unclear on anything. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. If you do have any questions for me, definitely feel free to give a shout. Like, definitely subscribe and hit that notification bell, as that is extremely important. And definitely let me know down below what you guys are thinking about this one. You know, do you feel that gender roles are necessary? Do you believe in feminine and masculine polarity and that plays a difference in a relationship? Definitely let me know down below. Until next time, gentlemen and scholars.